After working as a janitor for 30 years, I finally saved enough money to buy a house for my son Jeff. Before his wedding, I was hospitalized due to an infection in my leg and couldn't attend. I wanted to give him all of my savings as a wedding gift, but then I accidentally overheard a conversation between the doctor and Jeff. Jeff, as your friend, I feel I should warn you. Your mother is getting older and her recovery isn't looking good. If her condition continues to worsen, we might have to consider amputating. You're just concerned about your real mother being at the wedding, but why push your stepmother to her limits? Let her amputate if it comes to that. It's not like I'll abandon her. But if she recovers too quickly, who knows what kind of drama she'll cause when she finds out my real mother is at the wedding instead of her. I quietly tucked my bank card away. The card that I have kept all my saving and which I intended to give the money to Jeff as his wedding gift. Since he had his real birth mother to care for, he probably wouldn't need the money I had saved for him after all. In the hospital, I overheard a conversation between Jeff and the doctor. Jeff said, "Since she's getting old, there's no point in wasting money on surgery. The steel pins in her leg aren't a major issue. She won't die from it, just treat it simply. She's always been proud. If she hadn't reached the point where she had to be hospitalized long-term, she would have crawled to my wedding." Mandy's parents are both university professors. How could I let them sit with a janitor? The doctor looked uneasy after hearing this. "Jeff, we've been friends for years and I have to remind you your mother's getting older, and if her condition isn't addressed soon, we may need to amputate. You just want your birth mother to attend wedding instead of her. Why push her to the point of no return? Gina is such a vibrant person, she couldn't possibly bear spending the rest of her life in a wheelchair." Jeff remained unmoved by the doctor's words. He still made sure to emphasize that even if the wound didn't require surgery, I should be given the best medication to prevent any further complications. The doctor sighed heavily, seeing right through him. "She'll eventually see the wedding video. You can fool her once but not forever. There's no need to sacrifice her health for something that won't last." Jeff stood firm. "My birth mother gave me life. No one has the right to cruelly deny a mother the chance to be there for her son during such an important moment. If Gina hadn't adopted me, my birth mother would have found me by now. Sure, her mistakes led to us being separated, but I'm Gina's only son. Even if she needs an amputation, I won't turn my back on her. But for my wedding, only my birth mother can attend." Jeff's words hit me like a hammer, each word landing with a painful thud. I looked at my bank card in my hand and quietly put it away. When the doctor returned with the medication, he couldn't help but speak once more as they reached the door. "She's given everything for you. Are you really that heartless? All this for a mother who never raised you?" He stopped mid-sentence, seeing the look on Jeff's face. He knew then that Jeff had already made up his mind. Jeff wasn't just concerned about his birth mother, he was disgusted by me, his janitor of a mother, ashamed of me. But had he ever considered that it was I, the janitor, who put him through school, bought him a house and a car? His elegant birth mother and well-educated in-laws hadn't contributed a single dime. I never expected that the son I raised for 30 years would treat me like this. Overcome with anger and disbelief, I fainted on the hospital bed. But what shocked me even more was that Jeff's cruelty went far beyond what I could have imagined. The doctor quickly treated my wound and left. Jeff wiped my hands and face, assuming I was still asleep. Unaware of my conscious state, he casually began chatting with his fiancée, Mandy. He said, "Mandy, don't worry, my mom loves me so much that all her money will definitely go to me. Once I get it, I'll buy you that car you want. Darling, you've already sacrificed by marrying me, knowing who my mom is. I promise I'll make sure you have a happy life." A few times Mandy had made unreasonable requests, but I always thought that as long as they were happy, nothing else mattered. I never rejected their demands. I never imagined things would escalate like this, that now he wanted to use my money to buy her a car. Jeff didn't want me at his wedding, but the money for the car? That he was perfectly fine with me providing. What a devoted son. The day of the wedding she won't be there. I purposely used the most infection-prone tools and didn't perform surgery on her. If she doesn't have surgery on that leg within a month, it'll be ruined. She won't have the strength to cause trouble at the wedding. Don't worry, beautiful. After the wedding we'll have 2 gorgeous babies. My mom will be unable to move around, so we'll need to take care of her. But her savings will be enough to help us raise the kids. A sharp pain gripped my chest. My eyes involuntarily filled with tears. I never thought that, just to keep me from attending his wedding, he would plan something like this so meticulously. He was so small back then. I remembered walking past the orphanage when he grabbed my sleeve and refused to let go. Feeling a moment of compassion, I took him in. To give him a better life, I started my own business, hoping to make more money. But when the business failed and no other good job opportunities came my way, I had no choice but to work multiple jobs, doing all kinds of cleaning work. I pinched pennies to give him a better life, never once asking for anything in return. He was 30 years old now, and I still gave him a monthly allowance, worried that he might be struggling on his own. I'd spent half my life worrying about him, only to find that I couldn't compare to the mother who abandoned him. If he thought his birth mother was more dignified, let her pay for the car. As for me, I would no longer invest my emotions in them. While Jeff was out getting my medicine, he carelessly left his phone by the bedside. I knew his password, so unlocking it was easy. That's when I discovered he had been in contact with his birth mother for a long time. She had sent him a photo of the two of them having dinner together. The woman in the photo was about my age when I was young, but she looked much younger than I did now. For years I had worked tirelessly to save money for Jeff. I never dared take a break, always out in the sun and wind. Now, with his wedding approaching, I thought I could finally relax. But I had seen online how much more difficult it was for young people today to raise children, and I feared my grandchildren would suffer. So I pushed myself even harder, working day and night to help save money for them. Years of this had taken its toll. Looking at myself in the mirror, I could see that I had aged far more than people my age. "Mom, you're so beautiful. Thank you for giving me such excellent genes," Jeff said, speaking to his birth mother with such affection. It was always him talking more, her saying less. He even video called her frequently. I thought about my own conversations with Jeff. It was always me asking him questions, and aside from asking for money, he rarely responded. Video calls and photos were even rarer. Back then, I thought maybe Jeff was just shy about showing his love for me. But now I realized it was because he was ashamed of me. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to my best friend, Heidi. Since his birth mother was so wonderful, Jeff surely wouldn't need my help in the future. I asked Heidi to help me contact the best orthopedic doctor. I didn't need to save money anymore. Now I could choose the best hospital and the most expensive doctor. Jeff wanted to trap me, to drain me of everything I had, yet he didn't even show me the most basic respect. He thought I was just a selfless mother, that even if one day I discovered what he had done, I would never be able to scold him. But he had forgotten one thing. Before I was a mother, I was an independent woman. When Jeff came back and saw me sending a message, his eyes were filled with excitement. He pretended to sound concerned, saying, "Mom, you're awake? I saw you unconscious for so long. I was afraid you wouldn't wake up. I'm about to have my wedding and you're such an important guest. I've been looking forward to seeing my heroic mother make her grand entrance." As he said this, his voice seemed to carry a hint of grievance. "But the doctor said you need to rest for a while, so you definitely won't be able to attend my wedding. It's such a shame that you'll miss it. I always kept my cleaning tools neatly in their designated spot. If Jeff hadn't moved them around, I never would have stepped on the sharp, pointed tool. It was my fault for caring so much about him in the past, letting him think my feelings didn't matter." I reached out and gently ruffled his hair. I said, "I was careless, but don't worry. I'll definitely attend your wedding." When Jeff heard this, his eyes showed a fleeting panic. He quickly corrected himself. "No, that's not it." Realizing he had said the wrong thing, he tried to explain. "The doctor said you can't move around too much right now. There will be a lot of socializing at the wedding and it'll be too hard for you. I don't want you to push yourself to attend." I smiled softly, watching him continue with his lies. "Even though you've left these regrets in my life for not able to be attending the wedding, I don't blame you. I know you meant well. I'll hire an actor to attend on your behalf." "But Mom, didn't you say you had some savings for me before the wedding? When do you plan to give it to me?" He started by blaming me for being careless and causing my injury, even going as far as implying that he was being generous, forgiving my mistake and still willing to accept my money. What a generous gift. Maybe it was because I hadn't agreed to hand over the money yet, but Jeff was clearly getting anxious. At that moment, he no longer cared about me not being able to move. He put me in a wheelchair and insisted I come watch his wedding rehearsal. "Mom, Mandy's a bit shy, so stay away from them. I'm worried the smell of the medicine on you might make them uncomfortable." "Them? Did that include his birth mother too? Jeff thought he was hiding it well, but little did he know, I had already seen his dignified birth mother long before he thought I would. The kept mistress of an old rich man. Now that was some real dignity. Jeff placed me in a small, separate room before quickly rushing out. I rolled myself in the wheelchair toward the venue. After all, I had spent money preparing for this wedding, and even though it was destined to end in disappointment, I still wanted to witness it in its moment of fleeting calm. As I neared the venue, I overheard some of the staff chatting as they set up. Have you heard? The family we're decorating the wedding for is pretty interesting. Apparently, they're having the real mother pose as a hired actress to attend the wedding in place of the adoptive mother. Why isn't the adoptive mother coming herself? She's sick, I think. But I mean, how could the adoptive mother possibly be as close to the kid? Of course, he'd be closer to his real mom. If it were me, I'd just let the real mom come. Who would dare stop her? I saw his real mom earlier, dressed head to toe in designer clothes, looks like a successful, independent woman. I heard the adoptive mom is a cripple. She's here today? What a shame. Their words made my chest tighten even more. I pushed my wheelchair toward the banquet hall door. The door was slightly ajar, just enough to see the figures inside. Mandy pulled out an expensive-looking camel wool scarf as a greeting gift, her face plastered with a flattering smile. Carrie, Jeff's told me so much about you. He always said you were a beauty, and I thought he was just boasting, but now I can see he wasn't lying. I remembered how every time Mandy saw me, her face was always so somber, and Jeff explained that it was because she wasn't feeling well. She had been unwell once, but it seemed like every time they had a meeting, she was suddenly unwell. I thought she was just young and naive, so I didn't hold it against her. Turns out she knew how to butter up the elders when it suited her. But I didn't blame her, not really. She was after all Jeff's fiancée, and her attitude toward me was largely influenced by him. Carrie stepped into another corner to take a call, and I heard Mandy speaking quietly to Jeff. Your real mom's all decked out in designer clothes. He clearly has money. If we can win her over, we could definitely get a bigger house, and we wouldn't have to keep living in that tiny apartment your mom bought for us. Mandy was trying to charm Carrie because she thought she could buy them a new house. The apartment I bought for them was only because they were getting married, and there were no suitable houses available at the time. I'd actually already found a larger standalone house, and if not for all this, I would have signed the contract by now. Well, now I've saved myself a lot of money. I watched Carrie talking on the phone, and I couldn't help but think back to a few years ago when I first found her. Back then, she made herself very clear. She didn't want Jeff, and she didn't want to deal with the baggage, what she called nothing more than a burden to her. She told me not to look for her again, that we should never see each other for both our sakes. Such a woman. And now Mandy was hoping Carrie would buy them a house? He might as well be dreaming. When the priest arrived for the rehearsal, he naturally assumed I should be the groom's mother and was about to wheel me through the door. But as the door opened, Jeff's face turned pale for a moment, quickly recovering and telling the priest that Carrie was actually his mother. The priest had seen me before when we signed the wedding venue contracts, and now, hearing Jeff's words, his expression grew complex. Jeff had originally brought me here saying I would attend the rehearsal as his mother, but now that Carrie was here, I clearly didn't have a place anymore. As they began the rehearsal, I received a message from Heidi. Heidi told me that the top orthopedic doctor had been arranged, and I could be admitted to the hospital at any time. She confirmed one last time, but that's the son you've raised for 30 years. What if he has a change of heart? That him realized he had done wrong and asking you for forgiveness? Will you soften? Maybe, I replied. I glanced up at the harmonious trio on stage. But I didn't believe there was any chance for him to turn around. Once I finish what I need to do, you can take me to another hospital. Since our mother-son bond was coming to an end, I would give him one last gift. The rehearsal ended and it was time for dinner. Jeff had chosen an expensive-looking restaurant. They probably thought I was old and hard of hearing, so they didn't bother being discreet. I overheard Mandy quietly say, "This place is too expensive, we don't need to come here. We still need to save up for a bigger house." Jeff waved her off. "Don't worry about the money when you're with Gina. She'll secretly pay for it. She's disabled now and will only drag me down later. She better behave herself. I can't make my real mom suffer. She's used to high-end places." Halfway through dinner, I told them I needed to use the restroom and pushed my wheelchair out. Neither Mandy nor Jeff showed any concern about how I would manage using the restroom given my condition. Instead, they exchanged a glance, clearly assuming I was going to pay the bill. I struggled to roll the wheelchair to the door, but after fiddling with it for a while I couldn't open it. Jeff, seeing me struggle, remained seated and didn't move. Mandy didn't bother either. Then Carrie stood up and said, "Let me take you to the restroom." Jeff quickly stood up, his eyes full of concern for Carrie. "No need. She can manage on her own. Don't trouble yourself." When I looked at him, he changed his tone. "My mom's always been strong and proud. She doesn't like to trouble others." "Thank you," I said to Carrie, my voice cool. Although I was cutting ties with Jeff, I still had a few words to say to Carrie. Just as we reached the corner of the stairs, before I could speak, Carrie suddenly shoved the wheelchair hard forward. My feet and the chair slammed into the wall. The sharp pain shot through me and sweat beaded on my forehead. "Carrie, what are you doing?" "What am I doing? Gina, didn't I tell you not to let that burden come looking for me? Why didn't you listen? I almost got caught." Carrie's gentle demeanor in front of Jeff had vanished, replaced by a harsh, demanding tone. "This is just a warning. I'm telling you, I have no money to take care of him. If he wants to call me mom, that's his business. I'll help out if you want me to act as the respectable mother for appearances, but if you're trying to blackmail me, forget it. You've already gotten plenty of gifts from him, haven't you?" she sneered. I had seen their chat records, where Jeff had frequently given her expensive gifts and jewelry in recent times. The concern I had longed for from Jeff as a mother I never received, yet Carrie got it all. Carrie snorted, her voice dripping with disdain. "What, you thought I'd work for him for free? Don't get any ideas. If you keep scheming, I'll make sure you lose Jeff. He's much closer to me now than to you." Maybe our voices had gotten too loud, but Jeff and Mandy rushed over at that moment. Just as Carrie, who had been so arrogant a second ago, suddenly screamed and stumbled, her high heels tilting, and she fell to the ground. "Oh my God. Gina, I just said you should rest, that I'd attend Jeff's wedding for you, and now you push me? My foot hurts so much." Carrie was even more shameless than when I'd last seen her a few years ago. The sweat on my forehead grew thicker as the pain intensified, but I forced myself not to show weakness. I kept my face calm, staring at Jeff. I thought that after raising Jeff for 30 years he would at least trust me a little. But instead he and Mandy helped Carrie up from the floor, and when they looked at me all I saw was disdain. "Mom, I used to think you were just a woman forced by life to become a cleaner and raise me. I respected you. But what you did today has disappointed me so much." I froze for a moment, then let out a bitter laugh. I had raised him for 30 years, only to find I had raised an ungrateful child. A message was sent from my phone. "Heidi, my mother and son relationship with Jeff is over. Jeff's always thought I was beneath him, embarrassing him, so let's see what happens when his lowly mother isn't around to pay. Let's see what kind of spectacle the polished people like him can make without me." Mandy moved a chair over, and Jeff knelt on the ground to examine Carrie's ankle carefully. I struggled to climb back into my wheelchair, and just then Heidi arrived. She saw the injury on the back of my foot and immediately wanted to confront them, but I stopped her. I said to them, "Since you don't want to see me, I won't be a bother. I'll handle my discharge paperwork on my own. You focus on preparing for the wedding." Mandy gave Jeff a signal, urging him to get the money. Jeff didn't even look at me, mocking me instead. "Don't worry, Mandy. There's nothing to keep her here. If she wants to leave, let her. Let's see who's going to take in a cripple like her apart from me." Heidi pushed me away from the place. She angrily asked why I didn't argue with them. I was just relieved to have saved the cost of another meal. All the money I'd invested in his education and raising him was already enough. But the money I spent for his house and his car, that I was going to get back. That same day, I handled my discharge and had the foot surgery performed by the doctor Heidi had arranged for me. The surgery went well, and the doctor said I'd be fully recovered in a month. Less than a week later, I received a message from Jeff. "Mom, why did you leave the hospital without saying anything?" So it took him this long to realize I'd left the hospital. Jeff wasn't stupid. By now he must have figured out that I already knew the person replacing me was in fact his biological mother. "Mom, I know Carrie pushed you down, but she's a strong, successful woman. If you don't provoke her, she wouldn't have bothered with you. She's only attending on your behalf, but in my heart, only you are my real mom. Mom, please text me back. My wedding is in a month. I can't go without your blessing." Mandy's really looking forward to seeing you there. So, he was only remembering me now because he needed money. That's when he noticed I was no longer in the hospital. I scrolled down through his messages, a mocking smile crossing my lips. Mom, you're being stubborn about your treatment. If you end up losing a limb, you'll still need Mandy and me to take care of you. You can only rely on us, so trust me, I'll take responsibility for you. I looked at my foot, which was already healing well, and replied to him. Don't worry, you'll get my money on your wedding day. I hadn't intended to confront them, but since Carrie and Jeff were pushing me this way, I couldn't let them get away with it. It was time to fight back. On the day of the wedding, I deliberately chose a bright outfit. I had no more concerns now. Any money I had, I could spend on myself. No one in the room recognized me as the woman in the wheelchair during the rehearsal. I sat at the farthest corner, hearing Jeff quietly speak to Mandy on the phone. My mom told me she'll give me the money today. She's disabled now, so she won't dare refuse me or cause trouble. Don't worry. The wedding officially began with warm music filling the air. Soon it was time for the newlyweds' speeches. After everyone shared their blessings, the guests began to have dinner and the atmosphere in the room lightened. Carrie sat calmly and everyone was commenting on how beautiful Jeff's mother was, how graceful she seemed. From afar, I saw Mandy looking displeased, seemingly arguing with Jeff, who was trying to calm her down. Then he stood up and went to a corner to make a phone call. At that moment, a loud ring echoed through the venue. The horn I had bought drowned out all the noise and the ringing filled the room. Jeff, are you calling me? I stood up from the guest seats. When Jeff turned around, his eyes widened in shock. He was terrified that my appearance would ruin his wedding and hurried toward me. Mom, what are you doing here? I told you to rest at home, he whispered. You told me to bring you the money, didn't you? How can I give it to you if I don't come? I held the horn, and despite the noise, my voice carried to everyone's ears. In a way, Jeff was not entirely unreasonable in not wanting me to attend his wedding. Because truth be told, I never let myself be a doormat. But when I was in the hospital and injured, I couldn't afford to make a rash move. My biggest lesson in life had been that a person must know when to endure and when to stand their ground. If I had confronted Jeff back then, I couldn't guarantee what this cold-hearted son would have done to me. But now things were different. I was fully recovered. I wasn't going to let anyone walk all over me. Never mess with a woman who's fought her way through life. The guest heard my words and began throwing me disdainful looks. That's Jeff's adopted mother? Guess she can't compare to his real mom. Jeff's real mother is already here, but she still dares to make a scene. Adoptive mothers never truly care for their kids. Jeff's so pitiful. Did anyone else hear her say she came here to bring him money? Oh my God, if that's true, Jeff is way out of line. Jeff, who had been shielded by me for so long, now heard these comments. His face turned bright red with embarrassment. Mom, are you trying to embarrass me on purpose? What's with the horn? Seeing Jeff getting upset, Mandy rushed over to soothe him. Alright Jeff, calm down. For the sake of the money, just let her stay. She won't cause any trouble. She shot me an impatient look. Hurry up and give us the money, Gina. I stared at Mandy in surprise. The shamelessness of both her and Jeff was beyond what I could have imagined. Jeff was not someone who would easily back down. Angrily, he said, if you don't give me the money, then fine. I don't need you anymore. After all, my real mom can pay this money, I don't need yours. Gina, listen to me, unless you leave the money and leave, don't even think about me acknowledging you as my mother. You're really embarrassing me today. He probably thought that I would still treat him like a child, endlessly tolerant of him as I always had been. He thought he had me figured out. When he looked at the suitcase in my hand, his eyes were filled with greed. Your real mom? Does she really have the money? I asked, glancing at Carrie from a distance. Her eyes darted away nervously. Fine, you're going to give the money to him anyway, just leave the money and go. As soon as Carrie finished speaking, a video began playing on the big screen behind her. It was footage from 12 years ago when Carrie was disdainfully talking about Jeff. I've told you a million times, no matter how he's doing, it's none of my business. Don't let that burden come looking for me. If you adopted him, he's your child, not mine. I have no money to raise him, Carrie said on the video, her voice dripping with disgust and impatience. Jeff's eyes widened in disbelief. He had thought that he had worked so hard to find his dear long-lost biological mother, only to discover that I had found her 12 years ago. But Carrie had never wanted to acknowledge him. I knew Jeff was too young back then and I didn't want him to be hurt, so I told him his biological parents must have been looking for him, just hadn't found him yet. After all, what parent wouldn't love their child? Jeff had grown up under my care, sheltered in the belief that parents loving their children was a given. He naturally expected love and thought he deserved it. He never doubted Carrie's feelings for him. He even thought he should have lived the life Carrie led, wearing designer clothes and attending high-end venues, so he had always tried to please her, hoping she would take him back to his original class. Jeff took 2 steps back, shaking his head in disbelief. This can't be. You should love me. How could you not want me? Didn't Carrie ever tell you she's single? I asked. What's so strange about a divorce? Didn't you also get divorced? Even if she's divorced, it doesn't change the fact that I was born into a wealthy family. But soon, a man's arrival shattered Jeff's fantasy. A well-dressed man entered, flanked by a team of bodyguards. Without hesitation, the man yanked Carrie out of her seat and slapped her hard across the face. I've been keeping you for so many years, giving you all the things you want, the money, the car, even a villa. And you still dared to have someone else's child behind my back? I've done a paternity test with Jeff. You're done, Carrie. Jeff rushed forward, trying to stop them from hurting his biological mother, but before he could get close, a bodyguard kicked him away. The man left in a flurry, and the only sound that followed was Carrie's anguished screams. It was only then that Jeff realized. The mother he had always thought would help him climb the social ladder was nothing more than a wealthy man's mistress. He was the child of this mistress and another man, more despised than even a bastard child. His attempts to have Carrie protect his image had only slapped him in the face. Jeff, I've never thought there's anything shameful about earning money with my own hands. The ones who constantly rely on others to change their fate are the real shame. Being a janitor was never a lowly job. I, Gina, am proud of who I am. Mandy glanced at the suitcase I was holding and gave Jeff a push. Without Carrie as his real mother, if I didn't help him now, where else would he get money? In that instant, Jeff's attitude shifted drastically. Mom, you're right. It was all my fault before. You're the only mom I have. You're amazing and I've never thought less of you. His words made my heart grow colder. I should have never adopted him in the first place. After the divorce, I should have remarried to provide him with a stable environment instead of always putting him first. The tree I had carefully nurtured had borne rotten fruit. You want money? I'll give it to you. I placed the suitcase on the table and pulled out a handful of bills, tossing them into the air. The fake bills fluttered down, and it was only then that Jeff realized he had been fooled. Mandy quickly walked over and snatched the suitcase from my hands. Everything's fake. Gina, are you trying to cause trouble on purpose? Let me tell you, if there's no money today, I'm not marrying Jeff. You're just a janitor, and without me, you wouldn't even deserve to sit at the same table as my parents. Mandy's parents continued to look at me with the same disdain as before. I grabbed the horn. Calmly I said, "You're right. I came here to cause trouble. The venue and the banquet for this wedding were all paid for by me. I was kind to you, but you called me a shrew behind my back. Now let me show you what a real shrew looks like." I stood on a chair and exposed all the shameful things they had done, each detail laid bare. After hearing everything, Mandy's face turned bright red with fury and she stormed out, crying. Jeff's embarrassment was palpable. His face was alternating between pale and flushed as his relatives and friends began to gossip and point fingers at him. He quickly ran out to chase after Mandy, unaware that I still had another surprise in store for him. That evening, I received a call from Jeff. "Gina, you're so selfish. All I wanted was for someone to take your place at the wedding to give me some face. And you sold my wedding house. You're illegally meddling with other people's finances. Do you realize that?" "Then sue me," I replied coldly. "The house was bought with my money. The property deed is in my name. I did say I'd transfer it to you, but you refused it because the apartment was too small for you. You kept pestering me for money, wanting me to buy a bigger house. Now you can buy it yourself. I hope you find a nice big house. Good luck with that." Heidi and I were already on our way abroad. I didn't say much to Jeff before hanging up quickly. I had no time to argue with an ungrateful child. My prime years were ahead of me, and with no children to support, I now had enough money to make up for the 30 years I had sacrificed for others. I thought that after the wedding Jeff would hate me for sure and never bother me again. But to my surprise, when I came back from abroad, there he was. It seemed I had underestimated just how shameless he could be. He angrily said to me, "This is all your fault. Mandy is about to break up with me and you're out there enjoying yourself on vacation? Don't you know how to save some money? I still need to buy a big house." I ignored his accusations, choosing to selectively tune him out. He had no right to meddle in my life anymore. "Gina, I'm talking to you. Give me a few $100,000 and I can buy a big house. Maybe I can win Mandy back." When I didn't respond, Jeff shifted from verbal threats to more direct ones. But none of his threats had any effect on me. I continued to ignore him. Over time he saw my resolve. From disbelief to disappointment, then fear, he realized that the mother who had always been there for him would never protect him the way she once did. In his panic he became like a helpless puppy, but I chose to ignore him and distance myself, leaving everything behind and reducing any further contact. My life gradually entered a new chapter. Despite the betrayal and cruelty from my son, I didn't let myself fall into self-pity. Instead, I chose to redefine my existence. I invested my hard-earned savings into a charitable cause and founded the Adversity Mother Support Fund. This fund specifically aids abandoned children and single mothers, helping them stand up again and find their own value. One day, I stood on the stage at a funding ceremony, dressed in simple yet elegant clothing, my gaze focused on the children in the audience. They were dressed neatly, their faces shining with bright smiles. Behind every smile was the pain and sacrifices I had once endured. Looking at them, I felt a sense of fulfillment and peace that I had never experienced before. I had finally found my purpose, to give to others and warm my own heart. After the ceremony, I walked off the stage and toward a young girl with an innocent face. She gently tugged at my sleeve, and in that moment I saw the same look Jeff had in the orphanage. My heart trembled and I crouched down to her level. Softly I said, "This time we'll choose the family you like." The girl's eyes lit up and she tightly held my hand as if she had found a warmth she had longed for. In that moment I understood. The transmission of love and hope had never ceased. I let go of the unnecessary burdens of the past and embraced the new life that awaited me. As time went by, I gradually regained my love for life. I picked up old hobbies from my youth, especially painting and gardening. I became a volunteer at a nursing home, spending time with a group of elderly people who were my age. One spring afternoon I took the elderly residents to paint. Watching them apply colors to their canvases, I felt as though I had returned to the younger version of myself, the one who lived for herself. On my own canvas bloomed a sunflower with sunlight shining on every petal, its colors bright and warm. I whispered to myself, "It turns out the brightest colors are those lived for no one else." Beside me sat a retired teacher and we shared our thoughts on colors and exchanged stories from our past. At that moment I suddenly felt that all the loneliness and anxiety I had felt before disappeared. I was no longer the woman who gave everything for others. I was someone who could live for herself. In the time I spent with the elderly, I rediscovered the meaning of life and the true equality of relationships. This was what I had always longed for, and I had finally found my spiritual sanctuary. Meanwhile, compared to the new life I was embracing, Jeff's world had long since collapsed. Not long after the wedding, Mandy filed for divorce. At first, Jeff was reluctant to accept it, but Mandy soon left him a threatening voice message. "Do you really think you can still squeeze money out of your mom after all these? Don't ever count on her again." Jeff couldn't accept it. He kept begging Mandy to reconcile, but it was all in vain. She had grown tired of the relationship and could no longer tolerate it. Meanwhile, Carrie was fired by her sugar daddy and her secrets were exposed. She now lived by selling off her jewelry, and Jeff began to feel the weight of the cruelty and coldness he had once shown me. It was a reckoning that finally caught up with him. One day, while rummaging through items in our old home, Jeff stumbled upon a yellowed bank book. It had entries like Jeff's travel expenses and Jeff's tuition fees. Every amount represented my sacrifices and the boundless love I had given him. Jeff's heart ached painfully as if he could hear the breaking sound deep within himself. This money, it was all from my hard work, saved for him. In that moment, Jeff understood the greatness of my love and sacrifice. But it was too late. No longer the arrogant young man he once was, Jeff found himself collapsing both materially and emotionally. The crumbling of his wealth and the desolation of his relationships left him feeling utterly lost. He tried desperately to win Mandy back, but it was all for nothing. Without the support he had once relied on, Jeff began to feel the overwhelming fear of isolation. One day, with nearly all of his belongings in hand, he tried to break free from the situation. But reality hit him hard again and again. Just as he was about to leave, he received a call from Carrie. Carrie revealed the true hypocritical nature of his once esteemed mother, the one he had believed would offer him a way out. Jeff realized that he could never return to the life he had once lived, never shake off those burdens. 10 winters later, I sat in the activity room of the orphanage, surrounded by a group of children. We were discussing family and maternal love. I gently answered all the questions from the parents looking to adopt. "What is a mother?" I asked, my voice warm and soft like flowing water. "A mother is the one who holds the umbrella for you when it rains, but remember." The sunlight poured through the window, casting a warm glow on my silver hair and lighting up my face. At that moment, my eyes were calm and resolute, as though all the pain and betrayal had blown away with the wind. I had finally found my own life. "Never wet your wings trying to dry someone else's feathers," I said, my voice tinged with compassion but more filled with release. In that moment, I realized I was no longer the woman who lived for others. I had become a woman who truly lived for herself.